Okay. Yeah, I think I kind of confused you when telling. Okay, anyways, I'll just repeat the whole thing once again. Okay, so US one set, okay, has been given 2 payment terms, okay, which has an access for 2 payment terms, which is net 30, net 45, right? And you have this common, under one common set, it is you can have access to net 30 and immediate, which is common for, as you said, you correctly said that it's accessed by all the 3 business units. Then
Okay.
US2 set has been given an access to net 45, and US3 to net 30. Business unit 3 set has been given access to net 30. So you just once again tell me what are the accesses for US1, US2, and US3?
For US1, there is a first one, second one, net 30, net 45, and common immediate.
Right. And for US2?
US2 for net 45, US2, and common immediate.
Yeah, that is which is net 30. So
30,
basically
okay.
US1 and US2 have the same payment terms.
Payment terms.
Right? Okay. And
Yes,
US3? Yeah.
for US3 also, it's an US3 set net 30 and common immediate.
Good. Okay. Fine. So you basically got the idea of what reference data
Yes,
sharing
ma'am.
is. Okay. Good.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. Let's move to what is invoicing, right? Okay. So what is an invoice, Durai? You should be knowing what an invoice is.
It's a bill.
Yeah, it's a bill. Correct. That's the simplest answer possible. Good. Anyways, yeah, that is what it means. Anyways, okay. Invoice is a list of goods. Okay, sent. It's a list of goods or services provided. Okay, by the supplier, and this is a statement of the sum due for those goods or services provided by the supplier, which is in common terms called as a bill. Okay, so we basically have these 11 types of different types of invoices. So we'll just touch upon as to what each invoice means, okay, before we start off the practicals. So then as well, standard invoice, okay, is basically an invoice from a supplier, okay, representing an amount which is due for the goods or services purchased. Okay, and standard invoices can be matched to a purchase order, right? Okay, so that's a standard invoice. Then comes the credit memo. So credit memo, what is, you must be knowing what credit memo is, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
If we are paid excess amount in for one example, for one invoice for the vendor, they will raise the another credit to match them with the debit memo.
Okay, okay. So it's, what kind of an entry is this basically? I mean, what kind of a enter? I mean, it's a what kind of a balance this is? Credit memos are yeah. It's basically a negative balance, right? Through credit memos.
Yes, negative balance.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
They will raise it to match with that the
Correct.
excess debit memo they are paid.
Yeah, right. Correct. So basically, credit memo is one wherein which is sent by supplier to us, okay, to reduce the supplier balance. Okay, so generally, say credit memos are used by the suppliers when we get discounts on payables or any price differences are there. Okay, as you said, we paid excess or something like that, and then you can enter only negative balance through a credit memo. All right. Then what is a debit memo, Durai?
Debit memo is also it's a normal investment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, okay. Same. So this also is what kind of a balances will be entered. This also only a negative amount can be entered through debit memo.
No, debit memo.
Yeah. Both are the same almost. Okay, so basically debit memo is generally one which is sent to the supplier, okay, in case where the goods or services are not desired. I mean, you are you are buying goods and you're not satisfied with the quality of the goods that has been received. So what you'll do is, and it's not as per your expectations, so you kind of want to return those. So this is usually used for purchase returns. Okay,
Okay.
so only negative amounts can be entered through your debit memo. All right,
So
so
debit note acts as source
that is,
document to the
yeah,
purchase returns, no?
correct, exactly. Okay, then comes your expense invoice. Okay, so when employees spend the amount, like they go on see this LTC and LTA travels and all that, right? They come and they submit the bills for reimbursement. Suppose there's
Okay.
a marketing guy, he spends he goes to different cities, he goes and meets your distributors and all that. That's his job mainly. Okay, so he goes and stays in the hotel. So all those will be covered by the company itself, which will be the part of their employment agreement. Okay, so your job is to go do the marketing of our products. So you'll be going and meeting, visiting different states or maybe different cities in that particular district. So wherein all your lodging, boarding, and everything will be covered by the company. Okay.
Okay.
So in those cases, what happens is the employees spend the money. Okay, they spend their personal money and then submit those bills for reimbursement, right? You know what
Yes, ma'am.
reimbursement is like. Even when you go, like an employee is eligible for a LTA every year, he has to spend that, right? So you go
Yes,
on
ma'am.
a trip, you produce your whatever bills, your travel expenses that you have incurred, you submit it for a reimbursement. Okay, so
Okay.
that information we must maintain as expenditure report in the system. Okay, so which means
Okay.
an invoice representing an amount due to an employee for business related expenses. As I said, that marketing guy, those are all the business related expenses that he's incurring, like going and visiting on site sales or maybe the distributors in different cities. So lodging and boarding, everything will be taken care by the company.
Okay.
Okay, so with the help of this expense report information, we can create expenses invoice. Okay, which will be reimbursed to the employee, because even giving salaries also is like our the company's responsibility, right? It's an obligation,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So that's
Yes.
part of that. Then comes the retainage release. Okay, that's another kind of an invoice wherein this invoice is created for complex work, advanced contract financing, as you call it. So basically,
Okay.
retainage means retaining a certain amount of money with us, okay, without paying the supplier in full. Okay, so the
Okay.
retained amount is released or paid to the supplier when all the terms of the agreement have been met or all the work is
Okay.
completed. Like for example, say there is some work in progress, okay, happening. Okay, now this supplier will have to supply goods for us, say in the span of next 1 month. The whole production of a particular product takes place in 1 month. So he will give us provide the goods or services, say in 3 terms, like one in the beginning of the month, one by 15th, and one by the 30th of the month. Okay, so now here what you do is you pay you have a a ratio of say 90 to 10 ratio. Okay, so you make the 90% of your payment by 15th of the month. Okay, so then you release that remaining 10% of the amount, okay, only after the whole work is completed, right?
Okay.
So this is
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is your retainage release invoice. Okay, so this is usually, I've just given a small example of 1 month. This usually happens like in big construction companies, where the work in progress goes on for for almost a year or two or something like that, right? So in that in that scenario, they usually use this retainage release invoice. Okay, so you got
Okay.
the point there. That's clear,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay, then comes the withholding. Sorry, yeah, withholding tax invoice. Now here an invoice. This is an invoice when you enter to remit taxes. Okay,
Okay.
withheld. Remit. You know what remittance means, right? Refers to transfer of money. to another
Yes,
party.
ma'am.
Remittance. Okay, that's what remittance means. So here what you're doing is this is an invoice when you enter to remit tax withheld for the appropriate tax authority. Now here system will automatically create a withholding tax invoice. Now you may be
Okay.
required to withhold tax from your supplier invoices and pay it to a tax authority on behalf of the supplier. Okay,
Okay.
like say you will set a withholding tax option on the supplier set page, right? Saying
Okay.
okay, this is usually done with the help of this setup page, supplier setup page, wherein you have an option of manage tax reporting and withholding tax option. So you'll enable that there. Okay, and you'll put
Okay.
in the data. Like for example, let me give you an example. Say if an invoice of rupees 10,000, okay,
Okay.
you have enabled the withholding tax and you have given a set amount of rupees 2,000. Okay, the invoice is
Okay.
of 10,000 and which has a withholding tax of rupees 2,000.
2000.
Now,
Okay.
yeah, so Oracle Fusion Tax creates a withholding tax type invoice line, okay, for rupees
Okay.
2,000. So the withheld amount is rupees 2,000, which you will be paying to the tax authority on behalf of the supplier, and the remaining
Okay.
balance of rupees 8,000 will be paid to the supplier.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Got it? Okay. So this is an
Okay.
option, okay, wherein you are, suppose you have these certain scenarios wherein you have to pay the tax on behalf of the supplier. Okay, that will be an agreement between the supplier and you. Okay, fine. This is a requirement there. You take care of this part. Okay, so you enable that. Okay, so that is
Okay.
where you have this option of withholding tax. Anyways, we'll be taking the tax chapter, so you'll get a better clarity when we take the tax module, right?
Okay.
Okay, then comes the mixed invoice. Now, it's okay. And this is an invoice type where you enter for matching, your both purchase orders and invoices. Okay, so in other
Okay.
words, basically mixed invoices are one which can have either positive or negative amounts. Okay, it can be
Okay.
matched to both purchase order and invoices. Have you come across this in your work experience of mixed invoice?
No, ma'am. Mixed invoice I did not.
Okay, so say for example, if there is a mixed invoice, you click on the option of mixed invoice, wherein a negative 1,000 rupees, a negative of
Okay.
1,000 rupees, you can either match it to an invoice with negative 1,000 rupees or even to a purchase order with an amount of 1,000 rupees. Okay, this is a positive 1,000 rupees. So I'll give you another scenario. See, in some cases where invoices, were created with incorrect amount, there's a data
Okay.
entry mistake. Instead of
Yes.
plus, you made it a minus,
Okay.
something like that. There is a data entry mistakes and the balances are, fluctuating. In those cases, the client, even sometimes what happens is the incorrect data is presented to the client by the supplier itself. A wrong
Okay.
amount is mentioned. So in all those cases, what happens is such mistakes can be rectified out by creating
Okay.
a mixed invoice. So that is
Okay.
basically the reason why you click on that option of a mixed invoice, so that you can rectify all the data entry errors which has happened from both the ends, okay, from us as well as the supplier.
Okay.
Okay, so that is what it is. And then moving on, we have this recurring invoice. It's 2:30. Are you sure? Shall we continue or how is it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We
No
continue.
problem. Oh, okay, fine.
We
Okay, okay.
finish
You
that.
let me know. Okay, okay. We'll finish the invoicing. Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay, fine. Okay, then we have the recurring invoice. Okay, so a recurring invoice is one wherein a particular invoice is generated at a specific period of time. Okay, which is
Okay.
automatically generated by the system. Okay, so a
Okay.
recurring invoice becomes useful where you have scheduled payments, which are to be made after a specific period of time. Say, for example, you have your rent invoice, which you need to pay on each and every month. So you need not separately raise an invoice and all that. So you can, set it as a recurring invoice. Like even your,
Okay.
bank, you have taken loans. The company has taken loans. So what it does every month, it has to make the EMI payment, right? So you can set it as a recurring invoices. Okay, for your rentals, for your bank payments, or your payments to your creditors, or even to your suppliers and all that. Okay, so which happens every month for a certain period. Okay, so you can make it as a recurring invoice. All right, then comes the prepayment invoice. Now, this is a type of invoice where you enter to pay an advance payment for expenses to the supplier or your employee. Okay. So after that, you can apply the prepayment to one or more invoices that you receive from the supplier to offset the amount paid to them in advance. This is basically a method of documenting how a particular basically you have a workbench, you have an invoice workbench. Okay, now invoice workbench is basically a method where it's a method of documenting how a particular activity must be fulfilled. Okay, basically the steps and all that. So when a standard invoice is entered to the invoice workbench, the payable department notifies if there are any available prepayments. Yeah, sorry.
Hello?
Yeah. So this is basically the prepayment. Okay, so the prepayment is you made a advance payment to your supplier, or you made advance payment to your employees sometimes. Okay, this is where your invoice of prepayment is raised. When a standard invoice is entered into the invoice workbench, I mentioned what invoice workbench is, right? It is basically a method of documenting, of a particular activity. You can actually click on those options in the invoice workbench, and this when a standard notice is entered in the invoice workbench, the payables module notifies if there are any available prepayments for the same supplier, whether you have to pay make a prepayment to this particular supplier. That will raise through the invoice workbench. So this is one of the prepayment invoice. Then you have the interest invoice. Now, when we make a interest, when we make a payment after the due date, which is crossed, suppose correct. So that is a penalty. So interest is basically your penalty, which is applicable. Correct. So system will create one invoice for only the interest portion of that amount. Okay. As part apart from the standard invoice, your standard invoice amount will be there, which you will be making clearance of that. But in case if you have crossed that, so there will be some agreement between the supplier and the us, saying that okay, if you have crossed by so many days per day, this much interest will be charged. So depending on that, so that penalty will be raised separately, which is called as the interest invoice. And then you have your transportation invoices, which are basically your freight payment. Suppose if you're shipping your goods and all that, so that comes under your transportation. So as you see, a system which automatically generates invoices are your recurring invoice, your expense invoice, your interest invoices, which I just mentioned, and your withholding tax invoices, wherein you have an option to set these automatic, into which you'll automatically the system starts generating once you set those options, right? So this is what it is. And you're okay. I think that's it. Today we have we had options for creating invoices, which is the next one. Are you there? I mean, can I finish that, or how is it?
Okay, ma'am.
Or else I'll take it tomorrow if you're not able to attend. That's okay. That's not a problem. I'll just have options for creating invoices, and then I might go to practicals tomorrow, right? Okay, fine. Okay, then see you tomorrow. Fine. Okay, thank you. Bye. Have a good day. Bye.